And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba in the Bloom, episode 216, wrapping up our positional previews for the 2025 fantasy baseball season with the relief pitchers this evening. We'll get to that and so much more. But first off, you can follow me on Twitter at BDentric, the podcast at Bubba Bloom, Pod, and on Patreon at patreon.com/Bubba Bloom, and my co-host, as always, on Twitter at RyanBHQ. Ryan Bloomfield, how are we doing, my friend?
We're doing all right. We are out of shape. We are out of shape here at Bubba in the Bloom North. This is going to sound really bad, but I've got a pair of strained groins right now due to a 3-hour-long golf club fitting the other day.
And I'm
So
the
that's
one that
where
gets
I'm
called
at,
old.
man.
I'm the one that gets called old, folks.
And I am now old and soft, and call me whatever else you want to call me. But you asked me how I'm doing. Yeah. The groins. Double groin strain this early in spring training. I'm here.
Yep. He's day to day, folks. Day to day. He's we'll see where it goes. He's got a big listener league auction on Friday night that he's going to be streaming. So we'll see how that one plays out. Are you ready for that?
I spent more time on our StreamYard background for the damn thing that I have. But no, I'm going to spend some time on Friday prepping. We will have 4 auctions worth of prices. I'm going to use that to kind of guide my bids. I'm actually going to print out. Hear this, Bubba.
I have all my attention now. Yes,
I'm going to print out a couple sheets with all my prices and my plan. Hard copy. I've got some markers and pens and stuff right here.
Oh my goodness! You're bringing a tear to my eye.
Yeah, so I'm gonna. Streaming an auction for those that haven't done it. Most of you haven't. Is insanely difficult because you've got, especially if you're like monitoring the chat room, yes. Just in terms of like real estate on your screens and all that stuff. So I am basically taking one screen away and making that hard copy pen to paper. And then I'm going to have a screen with the draft board and a screen with StreamYard and the draft room. That's it.
So proud of you. So proud of you. This is great. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe I'll swing by. We'll see. So
yeah,
looking forward to that as well.
I'll send the link out. So it's 9:00 Eastern Friday night. I'll send the link. It'll be public. I'll tweet it out. I'll put it on wherever in the Discord, and you can all hang out there Friday night. Rob DiPietro is live streaming as we speak the Thursday, the February 20th auction. So thanks to him for doing that. He streamed that on his Patreon, but then also extended the invite over to our crew as well. So thanks to Rob for that. Listener leagues have been a ton of fun. We are almost halfway. After mine, we'll be halfway done. So
yep, it's pretty fun. Pretty cool stuff to see that going on and ramping up, and by next Friday evening they will be done. So it's pretty crazy to think about. In, out, done, and we'll be rocking and rolling into everything else. This Saturday I head to San Francisco to the rec room for the barf draft. Can't wait for that. And if any listeners are in the Bay Area and wants to come hang out, you're more than welcome to join us there. We tell people that all the time. We usually get a couple people that show up and hang out. So if you guys want to come watch a bunch of dummies draft and drink some beers and eat some food, come on down. We're just starting the draft around 11 o'clock on a Saturday at the rec room in San Francisco. So if you have any questions, you can message me or something. But feel free to come hang out. A lot of cool people drafting. And Justin Mason, I think Danielle usually, I don't know if she's going to be there this year, but she's usually there. So if anything, you can watch Danielle heckle people. So that's always fun.
Worth the price. Well worth the price.
And Eno Saris in person.
Oh, definitely. If it's FBAZ Eno, then certainly worth the price. But yes. A little early, but you never know.
You never know. I'm looking forward to it, though, because I missed the live last year. I was at home on daddy duty, so I'll get to meet Booms. Mr. Anthony will be there.
Okay. I did not know he was in Barf.
He started last year in Barf because we lost Toby. We've lost a couple other soldiers along the way. So I know he's in there. Yeah, Matty Wood's out. So, yeah, there's going to be some moving and shaking, and that'll be fun to check out as well. Brian Vogel will be in person for those in the NFBC streets. Be a cool deal. So come check it out if you're around San Francisco and do all that. A couple other updates for you. Again, this is the last preview show, Tuesday, February 25th, Labor Live Draft. Not our normal 11th or midnight Eastern streaming time. It'll be 8 o'clock Eastern in the evening, 5 Pacific time. Ryan will be drafting his Labor mixed team while I will be hanging out in the room supporting him as friends always do.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to your moral support, your encouragement throughout all of my picks and deliberations as we go. Draft order just came out today for Labor Mixed. I'm picking 11th, 15-team league. I'm picking 11th, and I'm in between Fred Zinke and Jenny Butler. So not too thrilled about that. And 3 picks away from our old buddy, if folks have listened to Labor streams before, Dr. Roto, my fantasy
sniper
nemesis. Yeah, the sniper himself is 3 picks away from me. He's picking 14th. So it's it's a really fun group. And we'll have I've mentioned before, but it's my favorite stream of the year. It'll be a blast. Yeah, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel.
The following Tuesday, I believe that's March 2nd, if I'm correct. March 2nd or 3rd. I can't remember. I think it's March 2nd.
4th.
Oh, 4th. Sure. Whatever that Tuesday
4th.
is, the following Tuesday. It's Tout Mixed, where we will both be drafting and streaming again, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific time. So just kind of getting you guys lined up on that regard. And then, Ryan, I'll let you have the floor for the final announcement that takes place next Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah, our friends at Baseball HQ are hosting First Pitch online. They just opened up registration since our last show. If you're interested in that, 4 days of fantasy First Pitch. It's all through Zoom. They make it the Zoom part of it's kind of nice because we do breakout sessions. There are roster analysis sessions, and it's kind of a more, I guess, intimate is what I'll say, than like listening to a YouTube stream. You're actually involved in the panels, and you can kind of pick your own path with breakout sessions and whatnot. So it's all the info is over at Baseball HQ. You can check that out if you're interested. I will be hosting a Labor Mixed recap Thursday night. And Bubba, you're emceeing the Labor AL
only Friday night. I believe it's from 7 to 11 Eastern. I think I will be there the whole time. That's the plan for now. We'll see how that plays out. So 7 to 11 Eastern, 4 to 8 Pacific time for the AL only Labor draft, which will be fun because I enjoy commentating anything. I love being on podcasts, as people know. I've never done an only league, so this will be pretty entertaining to see how I screw up my analysis on certain things with other people that probably know what they're talking about in the same booth. Yes.
Yeah. The less than $5 crowd in AL only, NL only auctions. It is brutal. I actually just listened back to your Bench with Bubba with Mark Winokur, actually on my way up and back to the club fitting.
Yes.
And it was just funny what he said. He was basically like, anyone who's in an AL or NL only league at this point is totally nuts because it's just so damn hard. Fab and everything, but
stuff.
Yeah. So it's a different animal. I'll be interested to see what you think of it.
Yeah, it'll probably remind me why I don't play them. That's probably what will end up happening. Yeah, you guys are nuts. Yes, but kudos.
Yeah, and there goes our wonderful promo. Now check out Bubba streaming in AL only.
Hey, I think it enhances the promo. Let's get Bubba's full thoughts on this while he's there. Now, if I get a message in Slack tomorrow morning that says, "Bubba, we don't need your services anymore," now we'll know why. But if you guys want entertainment value, you guys know me better than that. I pretty much shoot it straight, and I don't have a filter very often. So there you go. We'll see how that one plays out as well.
Okay.
All right, housekeeping in the books. Ryan feels like he's going to lose his job soon. Let's get to the relief pitching preview for 2025. And my goodness, Ryan, when we look at this board, oof.
Yeah, so like we were kind of chatting about this before the show, but like I have kind of been saying all draft season, like I am wanting to end up with a top 8, top 10 closer because the middle round of closers, I feel like this year has been very rough, very sparse. Some of that has been, at least early in draft season, kind of the influx of free agent closers and not knowing where everyone's going to go. But even now that like the dust is, I'd say, pretty much settled. I guess Kyle Finnegan's still out there if you think he may sign and close. Now that the dust has somewhat, Dave Roberts, yeah.
For Texas, that's a place though.
Potentially. But like even with these guys signing, it's still this board. I think this board, when again, what we're looking at is the top 30 ADP of, what do I have? The last 5 RotoWire online championships over on the NFBC. So these are fab leagues that have been drafted in like the last 5 days. So this is very fresh ADP. We're looking at the top 30 with the projections combined from Steamer and the Bat over at Fangraphs. And I mean, you can see it clear as day. The left side of this Bloom board, really your top 10, top 11 after Ryan Walker at ADP 91. This thing just instantly flips from Oregon Duck Green to Rare Steak Red. And I think like it's a perfect embodiment of what I've been talking about all draft season and why I am making it a priority to fish in that pond of the top 8 to 10. And what I'm also actually seeing, and I'll flip it over to you, get your takes, just kind of macro level at the pool here, is even now that we're switching over to fab leagues from draft and hold, I don't think the prices aren't really falling that much for closers. And again, these are 12-team fab leagues. We've still got the top 5 closers are all going in the top 50 picks. The top 10 closers are all top 100 picks. And so like, I thought the prices might cool a little bit on closers once we switch over to fab leagues, just because, right, you can theoretically fab saves throughout the season, as opposed to draft and hold. You're stuck with what you have, but you're still having to pay a premium for these closers. However, I'm still recommending that you do, because it falls off very quickly.
2 thoughts on that last part you're talking about here, and I'd like to see more standalone ADP, but for the overall, you need saves in a big way. So that's part of it.
Good point.
And in a 12-team OC, you usually need 3 closers to get the save number you're looking for compared to 2. So you kind of want or you need 2 elite guys to knock that out of the question, essentially. So that's part of the question. But then I do know a bunch of guys, even in OCs already, that to the part you mentioned, they're fine, playing fab and seeing where it goes. I hate it with a passion. Especially when you look at this board after like the Ryan Walkers, it's so many committees already. It's either committees or dudes that are on shaky ground already. Yeah, that's where it gets rough. And I'm not going to name them now because we're going to talk about them pretty soon. But there's a handful of these guys that when we started drafting in October and then even in December, I'm like, okay, I like these guys. And it takes like, I'll say Lucas Irsig. We've all done this one. He's ADP's 217 now. He was like around inside the top 100. And I had shares and a lot of people liked him. That's blown up in our face. There's a lot of those kind of scenarios that have backfired, one might think. Which also, if you want to play fab, those options might be out there type thing. So it's another angle to think about. But there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking. So the way I look at this, when I see the 11 green, it makes me think, okay, there's at least 11 guys that have the main role barring an injury. Now you got a messy situation after that. I don't want to play with the messy situation. That's just the way I look at it. And it gets real messy based on certain guys. And just so you know, it's the saves in the third column, not strikeouts, everybody.
Yeah. So it's funny in the Discord, we've got some editors, some blue board editors, some Hawkeyes in the Discord. Yeah. That noticed I mislabeled strikeouts to saves, and that I also have Trevor McGill projected for 25.9545 saves. So that's very precise and accurate, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's very accurate, of course. Like it's almost like reading pi. So it makes sense in the end. And Miguel's got his warts as well.
Pi, like the number pi?
Yeah, 3.14.
How many digits can you go?
When I was younger, because I was actually like a math nerd, like that was my math and science. I love that stuff. I could go pretty deep in that. And like now it's 3.14. That's what I do. I don't. I haven't used pi since the calculators came out and the pi button came on it. So I guarantee you kids nowadays have no clue what it is because they never have to even try. We actually had to write stuff out in books. So yeah, not a thing.
I can go to 14159. That's it.
1415. See about 6-7 deep. Okay. Gotcha. Cool. Good for you. All right. Let's kick it off then. We've talked about the greens, the Oregon Duck greens, the Rare Steak Reds. I cooked a nice steak tonight though, so that was good. 1 through 10. Like we do, we'll talk 1 through 10, and then we'll give a little targets and some, I'd say targets loosely as we go farther down the board. We just had to pick names at this, and then a couple deeper ones here. But before we go through the top 10, Ryan, did you have something you wanted to bring up by chance?
I don't
There's
think
a link.
So.
There's a link on the sheet from Jason Collette.
Yeah, no, I was going to bring it up when we talk about Class A.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was just there. All right. Well, the first pitcher is Emmanuel Clase, whose ADP over the last 5 games, 5 drafts is 38. My God. Projections have him at 2.9, 1.08, 36 saves on the season. Clase was outstanding in the regular season, left some bad taste in people's mouth in the postseason, but he's had 40 plus saves in 3 straight years. He's thrown at least 70 innings in 3 straight years. Strikeouts have dropped off the last 2 years compared to his real good dominance. But man, a .61 ERA last season to go with a .66 whip is pretty insane. So what do you have on Emmanuel Clase?
Yeah, I just think it's the best combination of durability, still in his prime. This is Emmanuel Clase's age 26 season. And like, I mean, you kind of just said three straight years, 40 plus saves. The dude is an absolute horse. And the last 4 seasons, an ERA under 1.5. What? In 3 of the last 4 seasons. It's just nuts. So hell of a run that Emmanuel Clase has been on. He is my top closer in our relief rankings. However, I have not ended up with Emmanuel Clase on any of my teams. Paying a 38 ADP or whatever for me is a little bit too rich, just given the opportunity cost of other options on the board. The aforementioned Jason Collette tweet on Blue Sky, which doesn't jive, but we'll just go with that. Jason Collette posted on Blue Sky, and this is actually part of his. Jason does a Collette Calls column on RotoWire, which is really awesome. He kind of goes out and does these bold predictions type of thing. And he said Emmanuel Clase won't finish the season as a top 5 closer. And it's just interesting. Like he uses, and I like the way he goes about it. He uses history as like a teacher for the future. And right now, we all think Emmanuel Clase is this bulletproof dude, 4 years, 70 plus innings straight. And 40 plus saves. And like you said, those 3 last seasons, that has only ever been done one other time in baseball history per Jason. And that was your boy, Eric Gagne, from 2002 to 2004, as you shake your head. And so like everyone, I'm sure if we had podcasts not named Baseball HQ Radio back in 2005, every podcast you would have heard is Eric Gagne is what we were just saying now about Emmanuel Clase. I don't remember how old Gagne was when he started to fall, but it's just interesting that if Emmanuel Clase does this again, he will be the first pitcher, the first closer in baseball history to do 40 plus saves, 70 games pitched. And, he doesn't have to do that to return, to be a good pick at this point. But I find it's just interesting that like, we just think, and I'm guilty. I mean, Clase is my number 1 closer. He would be the top guy that I took. At some point, the elite do not become elite anymore. And maybe that happens for Clase this year. Maybe it's next year. Maybe it's in 2 years. But I just thought that was an interesting kind of nugget from Jason that Eric Gagne is the only other relief pitcher in history with 3 seasons of 40 plus saves and 70 games pitched. Now, the only other relief pitcher, or the last relief pitcher with four consecutive seasons of 70 games pitched, was Mark Melancon, 2013 through 2016. So it has been almost a decade since someone has even pitched as much as Emmanuel Clase is hoping to do this year. So just food for thought from a historical perspective tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely valuable food for thought. I will definitely give you that one, but I'm just extremely nervous about Clase. I have him ranked 5th. I know I'm in the minority in that, but like especially after talking to Jay Kalusker on my Guardians preview podcast, he echoed a lot of concerns about just durability with Clase as they've seen in recent years. We mentioned 3 straight years over 70 innings pitched, the saves, the high leverage innings he's putting out there. We saw how things kind of flamed out in the postseason. It looked like he was just gassed, and obviously an off season can help with these things, but we've seen, he was mentioning velocity was kind of, fluctuating a lot towards the end. He just, again, could be just running out of gas, of course. And that happens to pitchers, but I think that goes also to Jason's comment about it's only happened one time to Melancon to do this 4 straight years. And so that's why I'm just kind of being cautious, because if I have to pay at an ADP of 38, which I'm with Ryan, I won't. It's just not going to happen. I have 0 Clase. I'd prefer Devin Williams if I'm going to pay up, and I've already done that. I planted my flag. I've backed it up, my thoughts on this in drafts, and that's just where I'm at on those 2. Like, I think Clase, he's been a great reliever, but I'm just concerned. And as murky as this position is, if I'm paying a premium, anybody can get hurt, but I kind of want to take my what I'm confident in at this point in time.
So are you, I mean, I guess we'll transition to Devin Williams, right? Because I mean, that's where I'm going to kind of come back with you at is like, how worried are you about Devin Williams, who's a second closer off the board, ADP 42, coming off a 22 inning season and with stress fractures in his back? And I know it was the first half of the season that Devin Williams was out. Are you, I mean, any pitcher, like you said, can get hurt, but like that, and to me, in the back of my mind, like Clase feels safer. That's why I have him 1/2.
Yeah, I'm not concerned at all because he just got better as it went on in the final month of the year. Like he threw 1 inning in July when he came back, then 10 2/3 in August, and 10 innings in September. And in those 10 September innings, no runs, a 1.18 average against. Like he just got stronger and stronger as the season went on. Like he was kind of ramping up still. The K to walk is just insane. He had a 40.5% K to walk in September. He was just lighting dudes on fire. So I'll take that. I feel like if you make a trade for Devin Williams, your team better have done the due diligence in the physical part. Again, anybody can get hurt, but I'll take that guy that just strikeout ratio machine because like Clase is really really good. I'm not knocking that, but if you want to compare the difference between Williams and Clase, you're looking at a good chunk of Ks. It feels like in that scenario.
All right.
So, what's your thoughts on Williams though? Because I do have Williams 1, and I have plenty of. Like I said, I backed it up. I've taken him, and usually I wait till round 4 or 5, but he's moved up where you got to take him in round 3 potentially.
Yeah, which I haven't either. So, I mean, I've been more shopping in the like reliever 5 through 8 range, and kind of the 4th, 5th round. So, no, haven't ended up with Devin Williams. I agree. This was vintage Devin Williams when he came back. I mean, the famous line we always say almost every podcast: back injuries can linger, can come back, that sort of thing. It's just something for me that I'm like, I'll wait till the next round and take Raisel Iglesias. So that's what I've been doing. So yeah, no Clase, no Devin Williams, and yeah, no Edwin Diaz, who's number 3 either. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll transition to Edwin Diaz here. He's the 3rd one off the board, and I have 0 shares, and I will have 0 shares to Edwin Diaz as he goes along here. He's going 2 picks after Devin Williams at 42. Like you look at Edwin last year, he came back after missing all 2023 where he had the torn ACL because he was celebrating at the World Baseball Classic. Comes back in 2024, and remember this time last year, we're like, okay, it was a knee injury. We should be optimistic. He was so good in 21 and 22. Like, you got to jump back on the train, and the train went off the rails. He pitched 53 innings, got only 20 saves, which is not what you wanted at that ADP. A 3.52 ERA with the 104 WHIP wasn't bad, but like he did a lot of things that you do not want out of a top end closer. And I didn't see him ever become that guy at the end of the season. So I don't know if he's going to jump back into that right away. Maybe you need to hope he does, but I just can't. Again, at that kind of ADP, I want something I trust more.
I mean, Diaz was pretty good in the second half. It was a 4.70 ERA in the first half, 2.64 in the second half, sub 1 WHIP in the second half. So maybe some of that knee kind of shaking off the rust in the first half was not like vintage Edwin Diaz last year as a whole. Definitely give you that. But he was still really good. I'm not terribly concerned about Edwin Diaz. If you want to spend up for a closer and Clase and Williams are gone, I think you're fine with Edwin Diaz. Let me check my rank. I did rank Josh Hader higher than Edwin Diaz. Yes. And so that's where I've been going. But I think Edwin Diaz will be fine this year, and the Mets should have plenty of save opportunities. And I think he's got a pretty damn long leash there.
Yeah, I got Edwin behind Clase. So, if Edwin ever fell, I'd be in. But I really like my top 4. And
who do you have up?
I'm gonna stick to my guns. I like my top 4, and my number 2 is the 4th reliever off the board in Josh Hader, who has an ADP of 48. So it's like, if I'm going to pay at an ADP of 44 for Diaz, I'd rather wait and get Hader. That's just for me. And I agree, Mike. His second half K to walking strikeout rate for awesome. Diaz was better. Yes, it was. I'm not denying that. It was never easy. It felt like with Diaz. Hader on the same. I'll take feedback here because I've struggled with Hader in the past. But then I started just looking at it. Like, he threw 71 innings last year, which was amazing. He basically told Houston, "I'm ready to roll." He's not playing that hole. He still doesn't prefer to go back-to-back, but now he at least said, "I'll go back-to-back. I won't go 3 in a row," which was a start compared to recent years. He's got you over 33 saves in 4 straight seasons. If you don't count COVID, 5 straight seasons. That is outstanding. That's the kind of stuff I want to pencil in if I'm paying for a closer early. Now, the ratios I wrote about him actually because I did relievers in the Black Book. His ratios are funny. It's an every other year thing. So if you believe in that, this is the year. Wink, wink. To get on the ratios, it's hilarious. So if you just look at his ERAs, it's in the threes or in the ones. It just rotates every year. And his whip, but his whip's usually pretty good.
Whip's always good. Yeah, it's really just ERA. It's not his whip.
Yep, exactly. The ERA because he gives up the long ball. That's pretty much the thing is that every other year the long ball's in like 1.4 to 1.5 home run per nine. It just somehow balloons. Dude's elite. I think he's phenomenal. He's on an Astros team that's won a ton of games. So it's one of those things. If you just want to pencil in 30 plus saves, I feel very confident about Josh Hader getting you 30 plus saves yet again in that Houston bullpen.
And I think you can. I've done this in a few different teams this year. I've taken Josh Hader before I've taken a starting pitcher. I think you can also almost pencil in 100 strikeouts, which then lets you take I don't know.
Aaron
Nola gets strikeouts.
I'm joking. I just had to throw that out.
Joking, but
I figured it's a later ADP, so I had to throw it out there for you.
But no, you can take a starter. You can take a Logan Webb later on. Like Josh Hader does give you those 20 to 30 extra strikeouts that you might get from a closer if you wait a couple more rounds. I think that's huge for Hader. And yeah, you mentioned the track record, the stability in terms of saves, like 30 plus every year, 33 plus each of the last four. So yeah, the only problem is the home runs, like you said, to 52% fly ball rate last year. So I think the home runs are going to stick around, maybe not to the extent that we saw them in 2024, but that will always be an issue, I think, for Josh Hader. But everything else, I think just the boatloads of Ks, the elite whip. And again, you're really drafting these guys for saves. And Josh Hader, like, I think has like the longest leash non-Class A division, maybe, of like any of these. Devin Williams is a long ass leash. So, I mean, all these, that's the reason why you take these guys is you feel very good about them getting 35 plus saves. So, yeah.
And to one of your points you made earlier, a lot of my drafts, I take one of these closers before a starter. And
yeah,
I know I'm the guy that everyone makes fun of because I don't take starters early, fair, but it's because look at these ADPs. I'll take this guy because the way things drop off, and I'll wait for that next glob of pitchers, like starting pitchers all day long that we've talked about. In the NFBC 50, we started in the Discord today for Britton Allen on snow day. We're like in round 9 or something. I took Josh Hader in round 3. Is my because Devin Williams went to Sokolsky at the turn. I watched that. I saw you. So I took Hader in that one. In my OC that I streamed, I took Williams in round 3 or 4. My first, because obviously I didn't take a starter till round 9. So yeah, I'm with you on that. That's why I want to echo that point you made, that I have no problem taking a closer before a starter. It's not a bugaboo at all this season. That's a real thing.
Yep.
Fifth reliever off the board is same ADP as Josh Hader at 48 is one Mason Miller, who Ryan and I have spent a lot of pre-show time enjoying last season. Miller just dominating teams in Oakland, and now obviously they will head to Sacramento and be the Athletics this year. But Mason Miller is just an electric factory. There's a couple concerns I have, but I'll let you have the floor first before I throw it all out there. What's your thoughts on Miller this season?
I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but he is the first one that is an actual fade for me. I can't, and I will fully admit on a per inning basis, this guy is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like beyond all that, I have a hard time trusting, and he threw 65 innings last year, 104 strikeouts. I totally get it. I missed on Mason Miller last year. I just have a hard time trusting someone with the injury history that Mason Miller has, with just how hard he throws the damn baseball. At some point, this is going to break, and I hope it doesn't. I hope I am dead wrong. I feel like Mason Miller is somewhat of a ticking time bomb, and I don't want to draft that in the top 50.
Yeah, so we're pretty much on the same page there. That's where I'm at. I love Mason Miller. He missed time in July due to some arm concerns as well. It's like lights out dominant, but a guy with the injury history he has, we saw him be great last year, but still had some hiccups that people were like, oh no, here we go. And he came back, which is great. But you even look at like the splits, they're still good. Don't get me wrong. But he was more gettable in the second half. Like he wasn't, there was a stretch there where he couldn't give up anything. We were talking about it all the time. Then you saw like a little more, but still very good. not knocking that, but again, grasping at straws here. But the K rate dropped 15, or no, that's away. The K rate dropped 12% in the second half. Like that's a big jump, which dropped his K to walk 10% in the second half. Like those are just little things to look at. Is it fatigue? Was that arm injury they kind of shut him down for before the All-Star break a real concern? Like there's things to look at in that regard, and that's just like as talented as he is. I have him as my fourth guy. I get it if you want to take him for. I think he's that good.
Same.
I'm not there. That's what it comes down to.
It's just interesting. He has the exact same ADP as Josh Hader, and we all talk about, and I just said it, Mason Miller is like the filthiest pitcher in baseball, blah, blah, blah. Josh Hader actually had a higher swinging strike rate than Mason Miller last year. He actually had more strikeouts than Mason Miller last year. Granted, it was, I think, like one or two more, but you like Josh Hader does not get that same, like, oh my God, this is God's gift in the ninth inning, as Mason Miller does. And again, Mason Miller is freaking awesome. But like, if you're going to ask me to choose between those two guys with the track record on a better team of Hader versus Mason Miller, like, I'm going to go Hader.
Yep, I'm going to take Hader all day. Like you said earlier, I hope I'm wrong. I hope
Miller's
awesome.
Sure,
I'm not rooting against him, but if I have to pick between someone at a high ADP, it's not going to be Mason Miller. Ryan Helsley, sixth reliever out the board, ADP at 56. Talk about a guy having a career season, saving 49 games last year, over 66 in a third inning. So talk about maximizing your situation. Ratios were really strong. The strikeout rate was lower than usual, but the walk rate dropped tremendously. And the last thing I'll mention before I give you the floor here, I saw one of the beat writers, I forget his name now, like Boyer or something, tweeting out on Thursday that Helsley has developed a cutter, and it was absolutely disgusting in his bullpen. And it's the kind of pitch he's needed to when he gets behind in counts, he doesn't have like a pitch that he can really fool people with. That's the kind of pitch he can utilize to get out of trouble type thing. And that's something that can make him scary. That stood out to me is what I'm trying to say. So what's your thoughts on Helsley this season at ADP 56?
I like Helsley. I think he's fine here. I think I think we can say it was an outlier season in terms of wins and saves, right? He's not going to, I mean, no one's projecting Ryan Helsley to get 49 saves again, or probably even 7 wins. Like that combo was beautiful. But in terms of like skills, this is basically the same Ryan Helsley. You mentioned the improved walk rate. This has kind of been the same elite Ryan Helsley that we've always seen. He just finally had the full runway in the ninth and took full advantage of it with St. Louis. So I think Ryan Helsley's fine. I think even if he gets traded, I think a trade would help, because I think St. Louis is going to be pretty bad this year. And I think even if Ryan Helsley gets traded, he will get traded somewhere where he's the closer. So I'm not really too worried about a trade there. The only thing I kind of worry about with Helsley is the health. He missed half of the season in 2023 with a strained right forearm. He had a stress reaction in his elbow 2 years prior to that. So there is some injury history there with Ryan Helsley. Again, he totally brushed that aside last year with 66 innings. But that's the only kind of thing in the back of my mind with Helsley. But everything else looks good. I think he's got plenty of run, and I think he's really good. So I'm fine with him.
Spore says, don't share the same concerns for Helsley that you have for Miller with him.
That's fair.
100.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah. Helsley, and I mean, Mason Miller's younger, so Mason Miller hasn't had the time to build up that track record. No, it's a fair rebuttal. I mean, Helsley does have 2 seasons of 65, 66 innings in the last 2 odd years, and coming off the 66. But they throw almost as hard. So I get it.
To be fair, I don't mind Helsley. I'm just not paying for him because I'm paying for the guy going right after him. Like we've talked about him a lot on this show in recent years, and Raisel Iglesias is one of my favorite closers to draft, period. I don't double tap a lot of these closers, but if for some reason I did get a Devin or a Hader and Iglesias is sitting there, I'd jump at that. I would really consider that. Let's put it that way. Because if we're talking consistency with Josh Hader and Iglesias is an ADP at 58, there's something I pounded the drum for. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the last 6 non-COVID seasons, 30-plus saves, 6 of the last 7, 28 or more. The one season he didn't do it, he had 17 saves before he was traded from being the closer in Anaheim to the setup man in Atlanta, where in that season in 2022, Iglesias had 15 holds. So he had 32 saves and holds, if you want to go there. So in theory, he's had over 30 saves and holds for those in Solds leagues in the last 7 non-COVID seasons, which is pretty remarkable with a guy that's also providing nice ratios, decent strikeouts. Like, he's not an elite strikeout guy like the others, still very good. So that's kind of what steps him back again. Going to be on a great Braves team. Give me all of the Iglesias I have, and this is where I'd probably get too bold compared to some. I have Iglesias as my third closer off the board.
Okay, I've got him fifth, so I'm kind of with you, but not quite as high. Everything you just said, complete, like the track record with this dude is absolutely nuts. If I'm going to play devil's advocate, though, I'm going to say here's Raisel Iglesias' strikeout rate the last 4 years: 38, 32, 29, and then down to 26 last season, with a pretty much similar drop in swinging strike. So the dominance has steadily declined each of the last 3 years, steadily declined from like elite to still really damn good, just to put some context in there. But you do have that steady decline, and this is an age 34 guy. That's kind of the only chink in the armor I can come up with Raisel Iglesias. I'm still taking him. I don't think this is a skill set that just completely falls off the cliff and collapses. If anything, it may be a softer decline, but I think Raisel Iglesias, and hell, he could get better. I mean, positive regression is a thing too. So it's just one thing. Like, if I'm looking at, like, if he's not perfect, that's the reason, is kind of that steady decline in strikeouts. But he's been awesome. Raisel Iglesias, you want to talk about pitching on a good team with a bunch of wins, Atlanta Braves, I think will win a ton this year. So Raisel Iglesias, I am ending up with quite a bit. And again, it's a round later than your Hader Miller type of deal. So that does matter early in drafts.
Yep. And like the one thing I'll say is not even a pushback or anything, but I agree. Like I say, his strikeouts aren't great. Like, you're seeing things go back. They're still good, not great. You know who he reminds me of? It's a guy we talk about, and you and I are big fans on. Certain people in the industry, and I'm not saying names because I don't know off the top of my head, I could see it or not. He's on the Kenley Jansen profile, who still gets a ton of saves, but the strikeouts slowly decline. Jansen's going to be 37. I still think Iglesias might be better at the same age as when Jansen was there. I'll say that much. But you're seeing he's getting old. You're seeing the decline, but worst comes to worst. We talked about it earlier. You're paying for saves at this point, and Raisel should be getting you 30-plus saves. And now, unlike, the Devin Williams and the haters where you say you might not have to get that big strikeout guy, go take Iglesias, but make sure you still get a Dylan Cease, and you're fine. It's just that kind of stuff. Or go get a Freddie Peralta later, or a Michael King that goes like the next round, like a guy that's going to get you close to 200 Ks, and you're back in business. So yeah, love Raisel Iglesias. All right, the 8th reliever off the board. This is your boy, and he's moved up to an ADP of 66.
My boy.
Well, because you beat me in a beer bet with him last year, so he's your boy right now. And I have a couple shares because you convinced me, so he better not screw up this year. Andres Munoz of the Mariners. We saw him eventually take over last year, as the Mariners have always kind of had like a 1B and C kind of part of that mix. It's his role, it seems like, this year. But what's your thoughts on Munoz?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. We have a listener question on this a little bit later. It's hard to tell, like, with a new manager in Seattle, like how everything's going to go. And Seattle had, like, I've mentioned this a couple times, Seattle had as a team, some wild luck in terms of lack of save situations last year, which I think drug Andres Munoz is save total quite a bit. Like, I think if the Mariners, I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but I remember it was like weeks over the summer that Seattle did not have a save opportunity. Like, nobody got a save. And so I think that is what's kind of dragging Andres Munoz from last year having 28-ish saves down to 22. I think folks look at just that 22 and think that this is like a split bullpen. I will fully admit I'm higher on Andres Munoz than your typical person. I think Andres Munoz has the job. Ryan Stanek is not there anymore. Matt Brash is perceivably healthy again.
He's
but
working
I think
his way back.
Yeah, I think Andres Munoz is the option. I think Andres Munoz is really damn good. There are some health concerns with Andres Munoz, but from a skill standpoint, I think he's the dude. And I think from a role standpoint, he's the dude as well. I don't think this is, I could be wrong. I don't think this is like a Yohan Duran type situation in Minnesota where he's always going to get like 70% of the saves. I think Andres Munoz gets more than that, but a lot of smart people disagree with me on that. So
yeah, I'm buying into it. I'm with you. And the biggest reason is there's not a lot of arms in the way like there has been in recent years. That could change, but that's a big factor because that's what kind of just kept me away in the past. Like I was a Matt Brash believer, and it's like the other guy, like Gregory Santos, when they traded for him from the White Sox, Santos was closing for the White Sox. Those kind of things were impactful at that point. Before we get to number 9, Jeff Whiteley jumps in here and said, did my first Bubba in the Bloom auction. That was fun. Thank you both for doing the work and getting things together. And Jeff at the NFPC, Jeff's been awesome, by the way. Like literally, he's a saint. So, yeah, and Ryan's doing all the dirty work behind the scenes to get it all organized. So, yeah, it's been fun. I'm glad people are enjoying it. That's for sure.
Yeah, glad you enjoyed it, Jeff, for sure. Absolutely.
All right, back. Yeah,
real quick. One last thing on Munoz, and it is more just the general picture here, and it'll lead us into our next couple of relievers. I feel like this is my own kind of personal cliff in terms of where I view relievers. And so that's why I'm also grabbing a ton of like Raisel Iglesias, Andres Munoz, is because I'm not like a huge fan of everyone else we're going to talk about at the price from here on forward. That's a little bit much, but yeah.
Things take quite the drop off about now because Yohan Duran's number 9. I have him 11 in my relief pitchers. Duran, I think most of us at one point said has the filthiest stuff of a reliever. That might have dropped off lately. Last year especially did not go well. My biggest thing, though, we talked about it with Iglesias. We talked about it with Hader. Getting saves, Duran 27 and 23. Like he just doesn't accumulate saves. And this was my problem with Munoz last year. This is my problem. So maybe I get proven wrong. But if I'm paying this ADP of 77, I'm paying a top 100 pick. I want a guy that I have a least confidence in, foolish confidence maybe, but confidence gets me 30-plus saves. Like I want to know I'm getting that out of this ADP. And I just don't think Duran's doing it because I love Griffin Jacks. Rocco Baldelli loves Griffin Jacks. They have other – like Baldelli's not afraid to bring Duran in the 8th if necessary. That's just his philosophy. So I'm pretty much just out on Yohan Duran.
Right. And I don't see there's like nothing situationally with team context that think that will say this changes in 2025. Like I think with all that kind of Griffin Jacks noise, I guess it is now, that those rumors that he would move to the rotation, like that would have been a boon for Yohan Duran. And it obviously didn't happen. But I just think, I think you're kind of capped at a high 20s save total for Yohan Duran. And I think that's a cap. I mean, Griffin Jacks had 10 last season. Now Duran did miss April with an oblique, so that maybe that does inflate some of Griffin Jacks' save total from last year and takes Duran down at least a few saves. But I if I'm going a closer this early, I want to go with someone who I think can get me 35 plus. And I mean, projecting saves is so damn hard. Like we said, Ryan Helsley got 49 last year. Ryan Helsley's good. He's not 49 save good. And it just doesn't really matter how good you are. It's all just situationally. But I just want my closer to have the ability to get 35 plus if I'm taking him in the top 100. And I just don't think Duran does. And as you mentioned, Bubba, like slight slippage. Yeah, I caution a little bit, like just diving into reliever sample sizes, just because the samples are so small, especially like first, second half, that thing. But even a full season, it's like 60 innings. So you can get in trouble with that a little bit. But I mean, still throws hard, but like the swinging strike the last couple seasons gone from 19 to 18 and 15 last year. Again, still really good, but not like holy crap good. So that's not as much of a consideration for me as what Baldelli is going to do with the Minnesota Pen. That's the big concern for me, not taking Duran at 77.
And it's a good point you made that one of us should have probably made earlier is when we look at reliever stats, the sample size is so small. And it's like, I think it was last year with Hader, he had like 1 or 2 horrific outings. And then the rest, it just made his ERA what it was. Like that's just how skewed it is. He really wasn't that bad. If you just it's like, because Ryan does those bloom boards, like take 1 start out, and then you just literally Hader was 1 or 2 outings, period. And he has a
I should probably do that for relievers. Like take your worst 2 outings out or something and see who changes, because you could do that at the end of the season. Yeah.
Huh. Be interesting.
Let me write that down. Write that down here.
I'm an ideas guy. I'm not an execution because these boards, no idea how that poof it happens, but I got ideas. Don't you worry about that. So I'm just working on dragging and dropping things these days. The 10th reliever off the board is Felix Bautista at ADP 78, coming off a Tommy John procedure, missed all of the 2024 season. Right now, he's working his way to potentially be ready for opening day. When I had Dream on the Orioles preview, all the rumors around Baltimore are they're going to slow play him early on. Like he's going to be the closer, but it's going to be a slow roll in that regard. That just has me pretty much out on King Felix.
Yeah. So I have, it's funny. So I mean, I mentioned this, but in the WRF draft last Sunday, I took Felix Bautista. It was the 7th round. It was pick 98. And I was just like, I guess I'll do it. I passed on him the previous 2 rounds. He was like that. It's frustrating as hell. He was that top guy in the draft room based on ADP. I passed on him again the next round. I was like, finally, I guess I'll do it. I don't have a closer. It's the 7th round. I'll do it. I still didn't feel good about it. Because again, even if everything goes right for Felix Bautista, like you said, the early slow play, like I think there is the saves cap. It might be higher than Yohan Duran's, but yeah, Baltimore's not going to push this guy. Baltimore is a postseason team. They want Felix Bautista healthy and in his in-season prime in September. And that's even if Felix Bautista comes back and is healthy and is the Felix Bautista pre-TJ. We don't even know that. So it's just, it's tough. The one thing I did do in WRF is in the last round of the draft, I took Andrew Kittredge, who I think would be the backup,
yes,
at least early on or whatever. I would recommend doing that handcuff in a fab league where if Felix Bautista, if you get Bautista and I think it would be Kittredge as the backup. There's some talk Yenny or Cano, but I don't know what Dream said. I haven't listened to that episode yet.
He's on Kittredge as well.
Okay. I would recommend handcuffing Kittredge because worst case is Felix Bautista looks good in spring. He's ready to go. Then you cut Kittredge in fab and you go. So I would do that if you do take Felix Bautista.
Yeah, because one thing, let me pull it up real quick with Kittredge. I'm 99% sure they almost gave him closer money, essentially. And that's something to obviously keep in mind. It'd help if you spelled his name properly. Yeah, he got paid $10 million. So it's not like lockout closer money, but it's not necessarily not going to get some saves money either. So definitely think he'd be the guy to get a few looks as well. All right.
Would you have taken Bautista at 98?
No, I want nothing to do.
You're just a full off fade. You don't care. Okay.
I want nothing to do. I hope I'm wrong. Similar to the Mason Miller thing. Tell me I'm wrong. This is the one position I was thinking about it as we were about 3 guys ago. Most other positions I'm okay getting sniped. I'll pivot in here. This is the position where I'll get angry. Because there's only like a few guys I really want to leave the draft with. And then it becomes like, okay, I'm not going to push. I'm just going to, now I'm playing the waiver game because I'm not going to push guys up just to push them up thing. And where like at other positions, you can move things around and survive in my brain. This position, I want to leave with like a select few people. And it's very frustrating, especially when you do content like this. And I go into a listener draft. So much fun. But this is definitely a position where I'm very stubborn in my ways. So, yeah.
As you should.
All right. 11 through 20, we're going to pick 2 each, and it starts getting rough, folks. We got Ryan Walker, Tanner Scott, Robert Suarez, Jeff Hoffman, Trevor McGill, Alexis Diaz, David Bednar, Pete Fairbanks, Kenley Jansen, and Ryan Presley. Ryan, take it away with your first one here.
So I'll go in. I think the big key with this group, kind of the names you just rattled off, is the difference in ADP. So after Ryan Walker, Tanner Scott, Robert Suarez, that's up to 110 ADP. There's Hoffman at 128, but then it's Trevor McGill at 141. So you do see quite, that the price drops on these guys, and again, as it should in these middle rounds here. But I'm gonna go Kenley Jansen sitting there at 166 ADP. And again, this is the last 5 RotoWire Online Championship leagues. This is all since Kenley Jansen has signed with Anaheim. So the price, I thought the price would move up a little bit more. We absolutely know Kenley Jansen is the guy right now for the Angels, and that's really honestly all I need to know to take someone at 166. Kenley Jansen obviously is not the Kenley Jansen of old, 37, the whiffs are declining, all this stuff. the velocity's down. The velocity was down 2 miles an hour last season from what it was in 2023. But Kenley Jansen can pitch. He's still good enough to hold the role for at least the majority of the season. And honestly, that is all I care about if I'm taking a closer in the 10th, 11th, 13th round, depending on your league size, which is where Kenley Jansen's going. I just love the price on Jansen.
Yeah, huge fan. I loved it when I was getting him even later because you and I have been pounding the drum that if he signs, he's closing. So he was one of those kind of spec guys to jump all over. I'd have to go back and look at my OC. I'm pretty sure he's like my third or fourth close. I took him late in that draft, and that was a great feeling when that took place. I think I also took Carlos Estevez in that draft as a gamble because he was unsigned at the time. Now that's kind of a murky situation. But yeah, love Kenley. Big fan there. I'll go homer on this one. I'll go Ryan Walker, ADP of 91. Like, I'll take Walker over Bautista right now. I'll take him over Duran right now, especially once Bob Melvin, again, managers lie, but Bob Melvin said Ryan Walker's our closer. And there's a few things that stood out in that regard because if you look at the full season, Fangraph Player Rater, Ryan Walker was the 5th best reliever in all of baseball, period. A lot of it's because he had a ton of wins. We know wins skew player raters in a big way. But what I loved with Walker, he was a great opener. He was a great middleman. When he became closer, August 10th, he took over closing duties for Camilo. I don't know where I'm throwing the ball. Doval. Elite stuff. Just doesn't know where it's going. Ryan Walker made 17 appearances from August 10th on. Ryan Walker went 3-1 with 10 saves over 19 2/3 innings. He allowed 2 earned runs over that stretch for a .92 ERA. He had 28 strikeouts to 5 walks, which if you want to do some more math on the books there, Ryan Walker had a 30.7% K to walk and a .46 home run in the 9. So he got the ball in the ballpark and struck out a boatload of people. It wasn't a fluke what he did because I saw him doing it as different roles all season. I didn't think he'd keep the job. I thought they'd bring Duvall back and use Walker elsewhere. But he was lights out, so I get it. And if they're going to roll with him, and again, it could change. It's a risk. I'll take the risk at ADP 91 because if they do keep him in there, this is an Iglesias type guy. Like, I think he's that good, maybe better. So he'd be worth another 30 picks or so if he does get 30 plus saves.
Yeah, I would also take Ryan Walker over Duran and Bautista straight up. So hope no one listening to this is in labor, but I hope to get Ryan Walker on Tuesday night at a relative discount compared to like Iglesias and the guys we talked about earlier, because I think in labor those prices will go down because it is a standalone league. But yeah, I'm with you on Walker over Duran Bautista. And in Werf, Walker was gone when I took Bautista, so that was also
that's tricky. Who's your second guy here?
I really don't have one, so I'm just gonna like throw out 3 names here. Robert Suarez, I kind of like. Robert Suarez is going 110. Yes, I know there is like this very real possibility that San Diego trades him.
Very real.
and I, unlike what I was talking about with Ryan Helsley earlier, if Robert Suarez gets traded, he may not be the 9th inning guy, wherever he goes. He still might, but there's a chance he's not. So that worries me with Robert Suarez. And so like I've been very much cooling off of Suarez lately, but I think if Suarez stays with the Padres, I think he's a good buy at 110. Somebody who I thought I'd be in on, but I'm not, is Trevor McGill. Am I taking one of your guys here?
No, you're good. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, my bad. It's Trevor McGill. I thought I'd be in on him more once the Devin Williams news hit, but when I see Trevor McGill, I see someone who A, might get traded himself, B, really has not been a good pitcher outside of the first half of 2024. And so like that scares me. Like, look at Trevor McGill's, and this is something I will look at with first half, second half, is look at Trevor McGill's first and second half. It fell apart there. And then there are injury risks with Trevor McGill. And I mean, he was hurt last year, and maybe that was part of the second half decline, but like, that's also part of the package, I think. So Trevor McGill, I feel like I'm off on. And then last but not least, like if I had to pick one after this, it'd be David Bednar, 153, just because it sounds like Pittsburgh is going to give him the roll back. And that matters a lot. However, you are still very much gambling on David Bednar, who was really good from 2021 through 2023, like really good, but was horrendous horrendous in 2024. You're banking on a bounce back there. So I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing those three names out there as guys. Like, that's just my feeling. I've been on them a little bit in draft season and now kind of wishy-washy. So there you have it.
Yeah, the one guy I picked was Jeff Hoffman, just because I feel like he's the guy, at least where he's at in Toronto.
Yeah.
Where like Tanner Scott, I like Spurs talking about him. I like him a lot. I'd be way more comfortable if he was on a different team where there wasn't like three other mouths to feed. David Roberts did say Tanner Scott's the guy. I don't trust David Roberts as far as I can throw him. I've watched him lose championships for the Dodgers. Like, they should have more than one in the last like so many years because of his managing skills. So I like Scott a lot. I'm just worried they do goofy stuff once everybody's healthy. So I go Jeff Hoffman. We saw the good strikeout stuff. We saw decent ratios last year. Should be the main man in Toronto. And if he does that, he should be good for 20 to 25 saves, which we're getting down to 128. And most of these guys down here, you'd be happy with 25 saves in reality as we get down in this range. I think Hoffman can give that to you because I just don't think he loses his job unless he's really bad. Like, he has to be bad to lose his job, where Suarez might get traded, McGill, the decline, plus there's other pretty good options there still. Alexis Diaz is hot garbage. Like, he's going to be lucky if he makes it a month or so.
I am not. Yeah. Fairbanks is a fade for me too. Complete fade.
Yeah,
155.
Agree. Presley, I don't trust his arm to stay together. Like, there's just so many concerns. And there's like, God, it's bad. That's why it's red,
It's
folks.
bad.
Like, it's very simple. It's why it
But
is. Yeah, Hoffman's like the lightest. Hoffman's like white and pink. Like, that's like stands out in this range.
It's just the arm has to stay together. If the arm can stay together for Jeff Hoffman, that's it. And so I think if you take Jeff Hoffman, your rationalization to yourself in your own head is he failed those physicals because they were looking at him through the start as a starter. I think that was Baltimore and Atlanta, I want to say. So that's the thing with that. Tanner Scott is interesting. Like, yeah, I know Paul mentioned Scott in the chat. Tanner, like, the Dodgers are so good that saves pie is so large. Tanner Scott could get 60% of LA saves and still end up with more saves than Yohan Duran at 70% of Minnesota's saves. So there is that.
I want to check something real quick because I do agree with what you're saying, but I want to check it because I always have this bugaboo. Yeah, they had 50 saves last year. Okay. That's because they win 100 games. So, like, if you do like the math to it, if you do statistics, that's only 50% of their games are saves. Where you have other teams where you get like St. Louis had 55 saves. What, they win like 80 games. So my point was going to be is these really, really good teams, they win by more than 3 runs a lot. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that's the concern. Like, you can't worry about that much when you're drafting. But that'd be my only
the best teams have the most save opportunities. At HQ's done research on that. And yeah, if you take for the 50 saves that LA had last year, if you think Tanner Scott gets 60%, that's 30 saves. That's what you want out of a 104.
Can you guess who had one more save than Dodgers last year? The Rays at 51 saves. The Rays had 51 saves. Yeah. So I just want to throw that out there to your philosophy on this. But yes, mostly Pittsburgh was 12. So you have most of the top 10 are playoff teams. Yes, to your point. I just have to be that guy right now because it's late. We're talking relievers. All right. 21 through 30 on the board here. Carlos Estevez, Kirby Yates, Jordan Romano, Justin Martinez, Lucas Irsig, Liam Hendricks, AJ Puck, Chris Martin, Jason Foley, Aroldis Chapman. In all honesty, I'd rather dip in this range, 21 through 30, than 11 through 20 based on price.
Yep.
And just the gamble. I'd rather if I miss on my dudes in the top 10 or 11, I'd almost just skip the next 100 picks of relievers and jump in this range personally.
Absolutely. I full agree, especially with, and like straight up, yeah, you take the group going earlier, but at the price, this is where I'm going with my second reliever most of the time. I'm starting to like even more Chris Martin. The longer that this goes, Texas not doing anything, and it doesn't sound like they are going to do anything in terms of adding to the bullpen because of luxury tax considerations. Like, it does seem like Chris Martin is the guy in Texas, and Chris Martin is good. Like, he's old. He doesn't get many strikeouts, but he's good. The walk rate's elite.
Both his groins.
Yeah, he has. Unlike me, he has both his groins, and I'm looking at Chris Martin's forecaster page right now. The last 3 seasons, expected ERA under 3.20, each of the last 3 seasons. Expected whip under 115. Ratios are awesome. He just hasn't had the job. I think Chris Martin has the job at a 266 ADP. It's very cheap. If it doesn't work out, it's fine.
Yep.
Chris Martin, I think, is a great buy at 266.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal down here. The longer they just drag their feet, like eventually, I think Teodo gets called up from the minors and gets some work in the back end when Martin does break down. But it's like we've talked about with other closers in the past with this ADP, take the 15 saves and move on. It's like we talked like Tanner Scott in the past. Okay, he's going to get traded. Just draft him, take the 15 saves and move on. Maybe Martin keeps the whole year and gets 25. Like there's no reason not to. So I'm with you on that one. Don't want to go too deep there. It's similar boat, but we have to rely on healthier Jordan Romano, ADP 197. I know it's been bad. There's been a lot of injury concerns, but I'm going to keep reverting back to it. And I know you have too. And when like Brent Hershey and others say the Phillies, like they do their due diligence, they wouldn't have agreed upon it, like all this yada yada, what you want to hear stuff about health with Romano, then I'm in at this ADP. Because the same thing, if he falls apart, I drop him and move on. Like that's just the reality of it. But close to pick 200. We've seen a Phillies team just be electric in the bullpen. They picked 43 teams. Or no, that's Pittsburgh. Philadelphia, where did you go? I'm like blind. But they are one of the better teams. They only had 37 saves last year. But we saw Estevez, when they traded for him, get locked into that position to finish the season. So it's not like they completely rely on the committee. Once they find a guy, they go with it. Alvarado's not what he once was. Orion Kirkring feels like he's better suited for like a 7th, 8th inning role than closing. So I'm going to go Romano. I'll take the gamble at that point in time.
Yep. I like it. I have ended up with Romano on a fair number of teams because, again, at 200, that works. And there's a chance. It's I don't know how good that chance is, but it goes back to the 2 years ago Romano, 2+ years ago, and it's awesome. So I like it. My last pick here is Carlos Estevez, 171 ADP. I just think the Royals, who typically don't spend a lot, decided to give Carlos Estevez 2 years, $20 million. That screams closer money to me. At least the primary save share. I will kind of hedge that Lucas Erceg, or admit that Lucas Erceg will get a piece of that pie. But I think Carlos Estevez is the primary guy, and the skills like the last 2 years haven't been that bad. He's another fly ball pitcher, which in Kauffman Stadium can work. In Kansas City, that can play. And he misses bats. The controls that they actually throw strikes. Like the ball rate's really good for Carlos Estevez. He's not that bad. And at a 171 ADP as a primary closer, going like 4 picks after Ryan Presley, who I think is going to fall apart this year, I like Estevez quite a bit at 170.
Yep, no arguing that one at all. I'm going to go Justin Martinez at 203. I think he has the starting role out of the bullpen this season. Electric stuff, if he could ever learn to control it, because the walks are through the roof. Like that's his biggest problem. He'll strike out 1 million guys, might walk 500,000. That's just the way it's going to go with him. But he's going to get the first crack at it. I will say I love AJ Puck this year. I've taken a lot of shares because one thing I think Puck will do a lot is he'll get you wins, 10+ saves, lots of strikeouts, and probably pretty good ratios. Like he's still a very, very good guy at 236. But if I'm going strictly saves, I'm going Justin Martinez, who I think will have the main closing role unless he just completely loses the strike zone and Puck takes it over. But I'll start the year with Martinez, but I think Puck is a beast. I think there's a ton to like about him, and I wouldn't let him go to the waiver wire. Let's put it that way.
Would you ever take – they have similar ADPs. Would you ever take Martinez and Puck on the same team? I don't think I could do that.
But if you're drafted early, for sure, let spring play out. It just takes one injury, and now you got a monster there. So I'd be all over that. It's like this range is this back 10. You have Estevez and Erceg right there. You got Martinez and Puck. You got Hendricks and Chapman. Like you got all these combos right there. Like I think Chapman's kind of like Puck's better than Chapman, but Chapman's going to get 10+ saves no matter whatever Hendricks does. So there are guys back here that I think are going to be extremely valuable. But Puck, I think he helps you in so many categories that it's tough to use him every week in a 12 because you want to keep racking up starting stats at times. But there'll be weeks when maybe you want to bench a starter, you throw Puck out there, hopefully they have a 7-game week, gets 3 shots out of the bullpen. Like you could do much worse things.
Yep.
So All right, who's your relievers past 30 plus? Where if we thought this was bad,
This is my most rostered player. This is my
dude,
highest
I have
player
so many
share.
shares, and I don't know how his ADP is still out here. I am baffled by this ADP every time I'm in a draft room.
I'm picking the good doctor, Dr. Foucher, Calvin Fauché out of Miami, who is going. I don't even know what his ADP
It's
is.
too late for the guys.
It's
the
late
closer right now.
And I'm not super confident he's a closer. I think he's the closer. 294. I think he's the closer. I think Calvin Fauché is good enough. I don't think he's an elite reliever or anything like that. I think he's good enough to hold the role. I know Miami is bad. There won't be many save opportunities, but Fauché, I think, is the guy in Miami. He did get hurt last year, so it was a shoulder.
But he's a good doctor, so he got it taken care of.
He's a doctor, so he got it taken care of. Missed 25 days with the shoulder, so there is that. But I just think with that at the price, getting a primary closer is, and that, like everywhere I go, everything I see kind of agrees with that. That sentiment that it is Fauché. We haven't heard anything from the Marlins, so this again could be wrong. But if I'm wrong, whatever. At the price, Calvin Fauché is my most rostered player in the NFBC right now.
Yeah, it's for good reasons. I think at that point in time, like I think the only other option right now would be Jesus Tinoco would be a guy at 360.
Or who's the other guy? I keep wanting to call him Howard Bender. Who's the other guy in Miami?
Good God, he's not even being drafted right now, so don't worry about it. It's either Tinoco or Fauché is what it feels like right now. That's where I'd be leaning in this one.
Is Howard Bender in Barf?
He isn't Barf. I'm pretty sure he'll be there. He was just collecting awards in Vegas for FSWA recently. So
Anthony Bender could be an option. I don't know, but I think it's Fauché.
I think Howard Bender has a better chance. For me, I'm going to go with don't draft Rockies pitchers, folks, but Seth Halverson would be a guy I'd look at back here. ADP right now is 330. He's going to be start the season as a Rockies closer. Picked up 2 saves this past year. Had 9 of them. So 11 total if you go through minors and majors. In his whopping 12 innings, he had a 1.46 ERA against small sample sizes. But we've seen a guy with like a 28% K rate. He only walked 4% in the bigs last year. Had a 10% plus in the minors. So again, very, very small sample, but he held his own. And kept the ball in the ballpark for the most part, which was good to see. So I'd roll with it. Like I love Victor Vodnik. We talked about him a lot last year. I rolled with him until his arm fell off. Halverson's a 330 ADP. It's like your last pick. Like do what you wish with that. At least he is a closer. We're not speculating on stuff like unless the Rockies go full Rockies, which is always possible. But again, ADP 330. I just want to throw 2 guys out there, honorable mentions. Griffin Jacks, always love, probably more of a 15 team than a 12 team play. And if you're drafting early and you just want to take your last pick to see if Robert Suarez gets traded, draft Jason Adam because he will be the closer, most likely in San Diego. And he's filthy. He's like Chris Martin, but better. Like both have been very good 8th inning guys for a long time. And didn't Jason Adam get some saves in Tampa Bay when Fairbanks got hurt one year? I think that was right.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing an early 12 team draft or even 15, I'd snag a Jason Adams share just to see what the Padres do.
I may do that in labor on Tuesday. That makes sense.
Yeah, because I think the Padres are crying poor, and I think it's gonna get ugly before it gets any better.
I hope not, man. I like
that team. Trust me,
they're fun to watch, man.
I'm with you, and they can contend with the Dodgers, even though the Dodgers do what they do. Like the Padres can hang, and that's gonna be really bad for the West if they start going crazy.
Yeah.
All right, final thoughts on the relief pitching position. That is just, as you guys can tell by our goofiness on this show, it gets rough in the back 2/3.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just kind of like, for me, it's like the take your medicine position. Just swallow it, take your top 80 closer and move on. It never feels good to take a closer, at least for me, that early. But it's just that the middle of this pool this year to me is so rough. And going through this exercise, sometimes I change my mind, other times I don't. I did not tonight, so I'm still going early closer. and then taking a few of those specs that we just talked about at the end. And that's been the plan, and that's going to be the plan for me.
Yep, I'm with you. Get at least one early, maybe two. Like I said, I'm very focused on the guys I want at this position compared to flexible at other places. So we'll see how that all plays out. All right, got a couple listener questions here. We got one on the Twitter from Ross Kaiser, says, fact or fiction, Andrew Walters will be the next surprise stud out of the Guardians pen. That's what I've heard. I couldn't tell you, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I don't know much about, and we are not prospect guys, so I'll lean to what we've heard.
Yeah. Jake Halesker likes him, so I'll trust him on his Guardian banter on that one. All right, listener questions from the Discord. I get to navigate comments, and yes, there's a hockey comment. All right, from Gunner fan, new member to the Patreon. Question: are purely saves categories too anachronistic? Should all leagues go to saves and holds because of the volatility of the closer position?
Yeah, I might have to
Google the yearly question.
Might have to Google
I'm guessing it's like archaic is what it feels like, but I could be wrong.
So I get the whole like what we just talked about with closers and everything. It can be frustrating as hell, and closers like all or nothing. You get a save or you don't. I actually like saves. I like that saves are a category. I feel like it's a game within a game of fantasy baseball, where so much of what we're talking about is just like player analysis skills. This is just a totally different way to analyze a position, and it's a like I said, it's a game within a game. It's that one position that's kind of different from everything else, and I like the I don't know, I like the kind of back and forth. Maybe I'm sick for saying that, but like I enjoy the kind of a zig at a different position that's different from any other category.
Yeah, as annoying as it can be is the best way I'll phrase it. You can't get rid of it because then it just depletes the value of a reliever. If you're doing saves and holds, you can wait so late and get relievers. You can stream relievers super easy week to week. I did that the new Tout World League when it first came out, where they did saves and holds. Did that for like 3 years before I moved to mixed with you, and like the elite guys are still really good because you're getting 40 saves. You don't get a lot of 40 holds guys, but you can find a lot of 20 to 30 holds guys. And if you stream properly, you can pile it up. So it's very, very doable. And I guess the caveman in me was right, because Spore said it just means old, so archaic works. So yes, every once in a while, this dummy figures a few things out. Our buddy Steve Rushcheck, he had a hockey comment, but then said, wait, wrong Discord. Are the Tigers an absolute saves mess to predict? Foley, Brisky, Canley, Lang, Horton. Paul earlier actually mentioned Tommy Canley post 500 ADP as a dart throw. We'll let Paul answer that. I'll wait for his response in the chat unless you want something, Ryan.
I mean, unless we get a tell from Detroit in camp, I kind of have to assume it's going to be chaos, but I don't know. And honestly, I have stayed away from Detroit. Foley is the most expensive one at a 280 ADP, but until we get like something from Detroit, I'm not really going there. Because there's so many options.
Spore says it'll be a mess. Hinch won't commit. It's just a bunch of mix and match, which is what they do, and it works. It wins games. It's great for real life, not great for us. Yep. BP says, oh yeah, he talks this is Foley. This is where it gets tough. They all start commenting with each other.
On the precision of my Trevor McGill projection.
Yeah.
And the strikeout versus save. Yeah.
BP says, will the managerial change help Andres Munoz get almost all the save chances? He could be a top closer if so.
I mean, we kind of covered that. We don't know for sure, because we don't know until we get a full season out of it. But that's my lean. I just don't think there's as much competition. I think Munoz pretty much was the guy last year anyway, and he deserves it. So yeah, I'm in on Munoz.
And then Sean Charge says, should Jansen be rising up a few slots now ahead of the question marks? Who wins? Well, we'll start there. I think he should be higher than he is. I think we predicted like closer to
Hoffman. So like Fairbanks or Jansen?
Jansen.
You take Bednar.
I'll just tell you right now, I have Jansen ranked 13th, and I'd be willing to take him probably over McGill and Duran now that I start thinking about him.
Wow, over Duran.
I just don't think Duran racks up enough saves is the problem.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing, right? Jansen's going to get 25 to 30 saves if he pitches.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is you don't have to make that call in a draft because Jansen's going 100 picks later. So
yeah, but like just in theory, so I have him 13th. I'd be willing to move him to 11th. I'll probably keep him 13th just out of respect because Duran is that much better, but like he's close to me.
Yeah. I don't have my rankings in front of me, but I would move Jansen up ahead of Fairbanks, Bednar, Diaz, and Trevor McGill, probably behind Hoffman.
Yeah, that's where you have him. You have Jansen 14th right behind Hoffman, right in front of McGill. So, yep. That's what you got. All right. The other question from Sean Chard, too. Who wins the battle in Arizona? I think it's Martinez. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you just covered it. So I agree with you. I think it's Martinez, but Puck is still good enough and versatile enough that he can be valuable. And he has Boston. We didn't really talk about Boston.
Yeah, I said Chapman still gets 10 plus saves, but Hendricks is supposed to be the guy. But
yeah, I mean,
that's tough.
Trust me. Like I said, I forget I was talking about. I hope I'm wrong with Mason Miller earlier. Mm-hmm. I hope I am wrong about Liam Hendricks. I just a 35-year-old who basically hasn't pitched in 2 years. Could come back and be great again. I don't know, but it just seems like that's a risky move for someone who is kind of being drafted. Well, no, 230 ADP. He's not that expensive, so I'm fine taking a shot there.
I'll say this much: if I could only take one Red Sox closer in a draft, I'll take Chapman at a discount because at least for now he's healthy. I just don't know what
I would too.
I just don't know what workload. Like Hendricks is still working back right now. He's not like him and Batista are on the same timeline. It feels like, which is weird. So I'll take Chapman at his ADP over Hendricks. So okay. All right, that'll wrap it up, my friends. Previews in the books. We have labor on Tuesday, labor draft on Tuesday. Let me clarify that we're not in labor on Tuesday. We have the labor draft on Tuesday. Any final thoughts before we head out? Again, I'll be at Barf on Saturday at the Rec Room in San Francisco. If you guys are around, come on by. Draft starts around 11 p.m., and we'll just be on our computers looking like nerds in the back while people come through on bar crawls and look at us like, who are these guys? It's the funniest thing every year because we get older, they get younger in the bar.
They get younger.
And it's like Dazed and Confused, dude. It's so funny because we're literally back there getting gray on our laptops with the draft board up. And these people walk in, you'll see some of them just like stand there because it's right by the girls' bathroom too. It's so funny. They're like, what are these nerds doing back here? So yeah, the more the merrier. You're welcome to come on by.
That's great. Yeah, man. Safe travels up there and back. I will. I'll have 2 drafts before our next real show. So I'll have my auction Friday night. I'll be streaming that at 9:00 Eastern. Later today when you hear this, and then labor on Tuesday. Cannot wait for that 8 p.m. Eastern. Bring the heat. Bring the heat in the chat. It's gonna be a great time.
Yes, definitely something to enjoy. I'm gonna try to come and hang out with Ryan on that one as well. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Remember to check out Ryan on the Twitter at RyanBHQ, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod, and on Patreon at patreon.com/Bubba Bloom. I'm at BD Intric. This was Bubba and the Bloom, episode 216. Catch y'all next time.